Throwing it at you.
Hey, you are now listening or watching the Halos in the Infield podcast, sponsored in part by Noble L Works over on 1621 South Sinclair, where you can get discounts by just mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield, drink discounts on us, baby. And also by 714 tickets. The price you see is the price you get, and you also get 10% additionally off in the Apply Now code once you order your tickets just by mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show.
In the land of last shores, I play my part with the halos in the infield. I'll make my mark. I'm the lone star halo, shining bright tonight. In a sea of rangers, I'll stand and fight with the halos in the outfield under stadium lights. From Texas to Anaheim, we'll soar to new heights. We'll soar to new heights.
Hey, welcome into a podcast here on the Halos in the Infield daily podcast show network on the Lone Star Halo show of the week, as we're going to get you introduced to myself, Todd Fox, and the host of the show.
How's it going, everybody? It's obviously been a while. I think probably the longest break we've ever taken.
Correct. It's been a while, dude. Because we've just been in off-season mode, kind of letting things play out. We're doing a rebrand, so keep in tune for that. We got a lot of news, according to that, coming up here soon about the network and what we're going to be doing with shows and whatnot moving forward and coverage of your favorite team, the Angels. So with that being said, Lone Star, you want to catch anybody up on what you've been up to before we get into the show?
Yeah, been sick the last couple days. I just turned 30 last week.
30.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I felt pretty dirty the last couple days, but that didn't stop the fun. Got to go to some wrestling shows.
Nice.
Yeah, got to see Frankie Kazarian wrestle in person for the first time. I mean, obviously I've seen him on TNA for years, but that was my first time getting to physically see him wrestle. So me and the crowd that were there were definitely cheering him on. You know, friend of the show. We look forward to the next time we can have him on, of course.
Absolutely. Big Angels fan for sure.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we got a few topics to get into today for the show. And I think you want to start off on the sentiment around the Angels, sort of vibe since the end of the season, and also moving forward into this season with the free agency stuff, which we'll talk about much more in the latter part of the show. So with that being said, get us started.
So I think the biggest thing that I want to address, a lot of people are going to be like, well, hey, let's talk about the off season. Let's talk about what's happened up to this point. Nothing really much has changed. There's been some minor league moves, Tim Anderson being one of them. You know, I guess that's a different topic for a different day. Right now, I kind of want to wrap up officially last year. Let's address last year, and let's kind of address what's been out there, a lot of the false narratives that are being spread by various fans, groups, pages, whatever. There's a lot of people who, look at Angels fans who are like us, and they're like, oh, well, what the hell do you guys want? You guys wanted the team to tank. You guys wanted to rebuild. They lost 99 games. They have the second overall pick. What do you guys want? You guys are never happy. Okay, so Todd and I have talked behind the scenes about this topic, but I think it's going to be good to just kind of hash that out, speak on behalf of a lot of our audience. Obviously, everybody in our audience has a different opinion, but I think overall, just by the Facebook group, which if you haven't joined, make sure you check us out on Facebook, Halos in the Infield, or any of our social medias where we do our questions of the day or we make posts. I would say about 70% of the comments have like-minded thoughts like you, I, and everyone else on this page. And that makes sense, right? There's probably a reason why they follow us. They're like-minded. But the anger isn't necessarily that we lost 99 games. True or false, Todd?
It's true.
Yeah. Because a lot of people are like, well, you guys wanted a rebuild. We lost 99 games. What more do you guys want? Okay, but that's not a rebuild, is it, Todd?
No, it's not.
Yes. Now, we have said for years that this organization would never do a hardcore rebuild, right? I mean, we would be naive to sit here and think they're going to trade everybody who has value. And you know what? I get it. You want to pretend that we're in the Los Angeles market. We're just outside the Los Angeles market, sure, but we don't technically play in Los Angeles. So, with that being said, I understand that you want to pander to that market because you're hoping to compete in that market. You're hoping to get some of the revenue from that market, but you're going to get it anyway because you're close enough. You know what I mean? And the Angels, most of the time over the last 15 years, have spent like a bigger market team. So we understand that because of that, they cannot never fully do what Houston did years ago. You know, where the Astros had what, 3 straight years of losing 100 games. You know, the Padres have done that. The Cubs have done that. A lot of teams have more or less lost for consecutive years to gain high level draft picks. They've traded assets away to try to get prospects, to get higher rankings in a farm system, to try to contend for long periods of time. Okay, Angels aren't going to do that. We don't expect the Angels to do that. But where Todd and I have been increasingly frustrated is the front office pretending that they're going to contend where they aren't. Okay, I throw a lot of information out there, Todd. The topic's out there. Take it away for a little bit.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we've talked about this, like you said. The Toronto Blue Jays have been the Angels the last 2 years now in the cuck chair. Because the Angels before
He said it. He said the thing.
I did. And it's like, the Angels had prior to that, it was everything was straight up. The Angels are rumored in on this guy. They're rumored in on this guy. And Angel fans aren't stupid. We understand that we're not Los Angeles. The organizations, like you said, seems to think that we are. But, it used to be in 2019 before. Yeah, we're not that far off from the Dodgers. Yeah, they're competing and stuff. But if we do this, we do that, we could be right there with them. Now it feels like we're at the distance of not Orange County to LA, but Honolulu to LA. They're so far advanced from us. It's just not worth even calling ourselves Los Angeles. That's number one. Number two, the fact that we have so many times or chances to hit that hard reset and just say, hey, you know what? We're going to bite the bullet. Come out here and tell the fans, come be honest with us. And, there's going to be that bit of the fan base that's going to be bitter and upset. But if you give us direction and give us an opportunity to say, okay, we've seen it with other franchises that you brought up, Baltimore being another one, 3 to 4 years, you can have a top level organization through the minors and the majors. I'm for it. I'm willing to bite that bullet. But now we've hit a decade of consistently not making the postseason and with no real direction. And for the second straight year, the Angels come out like gangbusters on opening day of free agency. And you think, man, okay, we're frustrated they're not hitting the reset, but it looks like they're all in. Like they're going to spend, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and we're going to try to compete. And then after initial signings, they just go cold. And it's just all of a sudden minor league. And then all of a sudden, when you get to this point in the offseason, everyone's like, oh, there they are, bargain basement shopping again. And it's very frustrating because you can see that, okay, you've addressed a lot of needs in the backup positions, the depth positions, but again, you've done nothing starting in the starting lineups. And then you have Halo honks over there that are saying, well, you still got one of the highest payrolls. It's because you're paying 2 or 3 guys max money. That makes it look like you're putting in max effort. So it's very frustrating to be an Angels fan because, like you said, what more do you want? 99 losses. We got the number 2 pick. That's great. That's great. But if you're not following a plan, the other side of that plan is you got to deconstruct. You got to make more opportunities to get more draft picks to fill the minor league systems to continue. It's just this patchwork stuff just is not working. We are riding a insert whatever analogy, toy or machine. We're pushing it. We're just pushing an old machine too far. And again, a guy like Trout, The Trout, I hate to say this, Fernando. I don't know if you feel the same way. I love the guy, but it's been disappointing his performances the last few years. And I'll end my rant on this. He needs to move on. He needed to move on a year or two ago. And I don't want to drag him down in this organization any further than we've already done. Forget his injuries. Guy's a great dude, represents the Angels great, never had an issue with him. But the fact that he signed that contract, a lot of people said, well, he's got to ride it the whole way. I would love for him to win. I would cheer for him to win anywhere else. It's just, I think if you're going to have a reset, a hard reset, the Trout era needs to end.
Well, there you go. Todd wants me to go to the Dodgers.
No, anywhere but there. We've already.
Well, you said he needs to go somewhere. So
somewhere.
Okay. Being an Angels fan over the last, especially the last like 4 or 5 years, but really, I mean, it's been a decade. It just feels amplified lately. Have you ever dated someone, I don't know, in the past, where you're living with them and they're like, you know what, I want to redecorate the living room, master bedroom, whatever. And you're like, okay, great, or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, let's move this to there, this to there. You know what I mean? You just shuffle a couple things around. They're like, great. And you're like, it's the same freaking thing. This is just there and there.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it feels like. It's like, okay, great. We replaced Jorge Soler or Hunter Renfroe eventually with Jorge Soler.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's good. Maybe it's not. Now, I think Jorge Soler as a potential DH is a much better replacement than what we had last year. No disrespect to the Golden Dong, but I mean, he's better than Cole Tucker. You know, he's better than. I mean, I like Michael Stefanik. I think Michael Stefanik didn't get a fair shake, but he's not going to get a fair shake. So by default, he's better than Michael Stefanik. He's better than Aaron Hicks. So, there is a laundry list of people who got an opportunity to take up at bats there. So I think Jorge Soler is much better than that. I think Jorge Soler can play some outfield if Mike Trout is going to be DH, by the way. Sorry, guys, you're going to deal with my voice. I'm still dealing with the sickness, like I said. So, yes, Mike Trout could get off his feet and DH here and there. If you're going to put Jorge Soler out there, okay, great. You still have Taylor Ward as of this moment. You still have Joe Waddell. You still have Mickey Moniak. As of right now, we have a bit of a log jam in the outfield, okay? You know what? But that's better than the alternative of having nobody in the outfield, right? And then in the infield, you're going to start having a little bit of that log jam issue once again. Better. I would still like a actual second baseman on a 1 or 2 year deal while we wait for Christian Moore to get ready. Because personally, I don't think he's ready quite yet. I don't know if you do.
No. I look at it this way too. The last 6 seasons, bro, or I'd say 5 if you want to back it up there. You've had opportunities, and we can go through the free agent class that has come up the last 5 years and been like, man, that guy would have fit great with the Angels. That guy would have fit great with the Angels. And it's not even like we're looking to pay $33 million, me and you, and expect the franchise to pay $33 to $40 million per year for one of these set players. I'm talking about guys who we can get for $7 to $15 million a year that are really good players. They're above average players that would have made differences in certain playoff chases in these last few seasons that would have been tremendous upgrades what we had in the system and on the field. When we've seen all these guys just go to other teams, it's been very, very frustrating. And you know as well as I know that pitching has been a thing where it's like this franchise just refuses to buy into any kind of pitching that would make a difference. And again, we're not asking for the top-notch guys. You yourself said, hey, man, I'm not sold on Corbin Burns. I might not be sold on the dude that went to the Yankees, which is fine because we kind of agreed on that. And, we can go with a Flaherty and stuff like that. That would help the rotation in a down division year. Again, we're not looking for a World Series team. We're looking to be competitive in August and September, like me and you have said since day one. And it just doesn't seem like we get the players, the right players, and even the ones that could fall to us and that have been rumored that want to come to us, we don't even sign. And I think that's even more frustrating as Angels fans because once the season starts, yeah, you might have that, what is it called? Newlywed or the honeymoon of the season starting. But then once reality sets in April, you're like, damn, maybe we should have gotten Santander. Maybe we should have gotten Flaherty. This guy would be a help right now because this guy went down. And then we're right back where we started again.
Yeah, there was a lot of people who were like, "Oh, the Angels have checked in on Jerickson Profar." I originally wasn't super sold on a guy like Jerickson Profar. I certainly, wouldn't have oversigned him, given him a big contract after his one really good year with the Padres. But then you look at the contract he got. Was it 3 years, $42 million? I mean,
Correct.
that's what, about 14 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think for $14 million, that's a good contract.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's a team friendly deal. I think you're going to get a pretty good amount of production out of $14 million.
Yep.
So if we're talking about moves like that, you know what? I think that's a good move to make because it's not a giant contract. The Angels don't exactly have a ton of long-term success coming out of the outfield in the system right now. Um, Joe Adele is still kind of a question mark. Did he have a good year offensively last year? Sure. He proved that he could drive the ball finally. He proved that he isn't a complete liability in the outfield. Great. His batting average still isn't there. Perhaps you're going to give him a chance this year, but okay, if you're going to do that, then give him a chance this year. You have to give him the at-bats. You have to give him the playing time. But if it's him and Mickey Moniak just, alternating blows, taking chances out there, then you don't really know what you're going to get because you still need to find room for Taylor Ward. And you and I have said many times, a lot of our infielders have said, if Taylor Ward is a guy in your lineup, you're in good shape. If he's the guy, you're in trouble.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. Anytime you can get a contract for maybe, multiple years, whether it's 3 or you could squeeze in a fourth, but most likely it's 2 to 3 years at, if it's at 18 million, 20 million max, that's not that bad if the player were to go belly up and you had to cut him. Where the Angels have gotten in trouble is those contracts with Pujols and with number 6, and even Mike Trout, where you're locked in for a long time and anything can happen. You can deteriorate it, have it, something happen and bam, you're on the hook for the whole damn thing. And it's much easier to cut a guy with $10 million left, like the Angels have done a couple times, rather than to cut a guy with 75 to 100 million left. So, beggars can't be choosers. I get it, but you need to think about it practically, where you could have upgraded several times over and still made some trades, still did this and that to keep the budget down, and still got pretty good free. Like a lot of people weren't sold on Stroman for the Cubs, right? But he wound up signing a 3-year, $42 million contract. That's not bad for the kind of pitcher that he is. BS aside, if you don't like him in the clubhouse, that's one thing. But at this point, any kind of clubhouse energy is good, with the way that the clubhouse really hasn't been there. But all I'm saying is, like, pitchers like that, I'd much rather the Angels take chances on, and I could live with that if it were to go belly up, than opposed to going bargain basement shopping and saying, well, this guy's coming off of Tommy John. He had a 6 ERA, or, oh, he didn't pitch all that great the last year because he didn't have the right coaches, or he was off his game or whatever. But this year, don't worry, with us, he'll be great. I don't want to worry about that. Even if we're getting him for $2 million, I'd rather pay for a proven commodity.
Well, you and I did say that the Kyle Hendricks signing, I think, was a decent signing in the sense of he's been relatively, he's been healthy in his career. He's been an innings eater in his career.
Yeah.
And he's essentially a better version of Griffin Canning because of the price you're paying.
And the health issue that you brought up. He's been consistent. I think last year was his only bad year. I just brought that up as a reference because they've done that multiple times with other pitchers.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, here's the thing. If you're taking a gamble on a 10 to 12-year contract, that's really not a gamble. That's you going all in on somebody for better or worse. And those are the signings that get people fired, right? Ask Jerry Dipoto. Yes, I understand he had different reasons. Ask Billy Epler. Those signings get people fired, okay? You know what doesn't get you fired? A 3-year contract for $42 million. And no, I'm not saying we should have got Jerickson Profar. I'm saying that's a contract, you know what? Once it came out, I would have said, I would have been okay with that if we made that move. Hai Sung Kim, the guy that just signed with the Dodgers, right? That's Hai Sung Kim, not Hae Sung Kim. Hae Sung Kim, formerly of the Padres, is still a free agent as we currently speak. But Hai Sung Kim signed a 3-year contract with the Dodgers. I'll look that up real quick.
Yeah, I think it's 3-year.
Yeah, I know he signed with the Dodgers for sure. But see, that's a guy that for the contract that they ended up getting, I would have 100% done it.
Yeah, wasn't he 18 million or something like that? It was very friendly. I know that. And the Dodgers probably still deferred some money. But, I think a lot of teams,
3-year, 12.5.
okay, see, that's even better. So that's barely 4.1 a year. So
yeah, and there's a lot of people who are like, oh, well, he's not a power hitter. The Angels wanted a lefty power hitter. He's just a lefty contact hitter. It's like, okay, guys, like Todd said, beggars can't be choosers, right? As of right now, you need a sustainable offense. And the other thing, at $4 million essentially a year, who cares?
yeah.
Oh, the guy can't hit water if he falls off a boat. But I mean, the guy won multiple Gold Gloves in the KBO, and I understand that sometimes when players come from overseas, whether it's the KBO or Japanese professional baseball, sometimes it takes them a while to adapt to the pitching. Sometimes they're never going to be the hitter they were over there. But if you're a good fielder, you're going to be a good fielder here, and that doesn't
That'll
fielding.
translate.
That's going to translate. So
Yeah, and I look at it this way too, Fernando. I much rather take a flyer on a guy who's a slap the ball hitter, very speedy, so he can do those Ichiro bunts and gets on with a infield single, or he hits a ground ball in between the shortstop and third baseman. Shortstop has to dive, can't make the throw, infield single, stuff like that. Because if you think about it, Fernando, when this team was in 2002 era to 2009, you had 3 guys who could pretty much get on base by just slapping ball. At one point together in the same lineup. I don't know if Eckstein was around these guys, but you had Sean Figgins in his prime, you had Meiser Turris, and you had Eric Ibar. Those guys were sometimes all in the same lineup, and you had the other 6 guys in the lineup who could drive the ball, hit it gappers, and score them because of their speed. But those guys were pesky outs. And sometimes the opposing pitcher would have to focus in on them because they knew they're looking to get on base via walk, via bunt, via single. And these guys aren't going to be your traditional hitters. They'll swing for the other way. I think that's what's been lost in the Angels is swinging for the fences too much over the last 5 to 6 years and not focusing in on working walks, getting those hits, doing the dirty work that'll set the other guys up, like your Taylor Wards, your Mike Trouts, Solairs, and others who are going to be gunning for the gaps and fences. So I think that's what's hurt the Angels. They've gotten away from, hey, like you brought up that hitter. He intrigues me because he's a hitter. That's what we want. We don't need any more home run hitter guys. We need the guys who could set the table.
You know what? And there is certainly a market for a all or nothing hitter, right? Every team needs 1 or 2.
Yeah.
You need that protection in the lineup, right? We don't want squid batting cleanup anymore. We don't. We've seen that already.
Atrocious. Yes.
Yeah, we've seen that. You know what? If Jorge Soler is your cleanup hitter and he strikes out 60% of the time, but the other 40, he's making contact and having a deep fly out to drive in a run,
Correct.
or to at least sacrifice the runners over, or he drives a double in the gap, or he pops over the fence. You know what? That's okay. I don't mind if my cleanup hitter is batting 235 to 250, but they have 90 to 110 RBIs at the end of the year, and they've hit 25 to 30 home runs. Because that's kind of the point of your number 3, your number 4 guy. Those are your guys that aren't going to hit for average. Your number 1, your number 2 guys, maybe that's Neto and Shanuel. You know what? Or maybe it would have been, Kim. Those guys are supposed to get on base. your third or your fourth guy are at least supposed to be a sacrifice because of that deep pop out or pop the ball over the fence. You know what? That's the point of the strategy of baseball. In my opinion, your number one guy should either be your fastest guy or your best contact hitter, and your number two guy should be some kind of combination of the two. And third, fourth, fifth, power hitters. So once again, there is a time and a place for it, but the last couple of years for us, it's been swing for the fences, launch angles. That's everybody. Hey, Nolan Shanuel. Hey, your on base percentage is too high, bro. You need to drive the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like.
And Shauna was not that kind of hitter. Like he's a contact hitter. He was a guy that we thought, okay, he's batting 458 in college, and he's ripping it in AAA and AA. He's getting singles and doubles. He's just constantly on base. And Moore's kind of like that too, coming out of the minors, and we hope that they don't change him up any. But getting back to it, Fernando, remember those days, like those three hitters I brought up? You could have a guy batting 220 in a normal swing for the fences lineup like Soler, but you put three guys in the lineup around a Soler, a Trout, and guys who had mediocre batting averages last year. Even by default, their averages will go up because they're constantly getting opportunities to drive these guys in and better pitches to see because they can't be walked or there's no threat on the bases. There will be a threat. Pitchers will make mistakes. And these hitters that are supposedly really good power hitters, their numbers will go up because of these other guys getting on base. And I think that's where, again, hitting your point, hitting my point, where the Angels have lost their way offensively. They're just swinging for the fences, like you said. There's no table setters. There's no resetters at the bottom of the order to get things going again. It's just, again, if you got a bat, you better be aiming for the fences.
Yeah. So, to kind of bring it back to the original point, I'm in no way, shape, or form upset that the Angels lost the amount of games they lost last year.
Correct.
You're not either. And a lot of people in our audience and a lot of people in the fan base who don't even know we exist aren't mad the Angels lost 99 games. The anger and the frustration is how the organization has handled it. If they would have been honest from the beginning, if Ron Washington at his opening press conference, instead of saying, we're going to run down the West, you can take it down to the bank. If he would have said, I am here because of my previous managerial experience. I've taken a lot of teams who were zeros and I turned them into heroes. The Nationals, the Braves, there's a lot of teams that he was a part of in some way, shape, or form. The Moneyball A's. I mean, the guy's been around baseball forever. He's taken a lot of players who didn't know how to field, like Marcus Semien, and turned him into one of the better, most solid defenders in baseball. So if he were to say things like that and was honest when he laid the framework down, we're going to build a framework, and I'm hoping I earned the opportunity to be around when this team is competitive, I don't think the fan base would have been angry at that. If he would have said, hey, you know what? We're not going to contend in my first year. We might not even contend in my second year. I signed a 2-year contract. I hope in those 2 years to show that there's progress being made. And if Perry would have said, hey, we like Ron Washington, we're giving him a trial run. If we can see in these next 2 years that the organization is taking a step forward with him and we want him to take the next step with us, we will, rehire him. I think the fan base would have been okay with that. It's the fact that the expectations keep continuously being set incorrectly. It's this false narrative that's upsetting us.
Yeah, I totally agree with that 100%. If we were able to get at least some feedback, some honest answers from our media related to the Angels or outside the Angels organization, it would be a breath of fresh air. But unfortunately, we're not getting that. And it's so, again, going back to your point where you're saying, man, you guys are negative. What more do you want? It's like, well, show us some ways that we can be positive. Yes, the number 2 pick sounds positive. Like you said, we get into the incomplete status and the upset status once the offseason starts, because again, it starts off with a flurry and it looks like we're going to be prominent big players in the market. and then we're back to square one. And it's like, okay, well, this isn't good enough to get us over the hump or at least keep us in contention. So what are we doing here? We're floating again. We're not rebuilding and we're not competing.
Yeah. So, I mean, with all that being said, I know kind of what to expect this year. I do think it's going to be a step forward. I mean, that's not saying too much, right? We lost 99 games. I
Mhm.
don't think we're going to lose 100 with this current team unless something really goes wrong. I think they've addressed the depth to an extent, maybe not as much as I'd like. Like I said, I'd like an additional piece, if possible, added to second base. I know there's still a lot of rumors, probably fake, that hey, the Angels are still in on some of these guys. Um, you never know. I mean, John Flaherty's still out there. Pete Alonso's still out there. I don't think those are moves that are going to be made. That's me being completely honest. But you never know. Maybe Artie Moreno wakes up one day. He's going to be like, hey, we're going to get those guys. And then that opens up a whole other world. Do you trade Chanuel? Do you trade Ward again? Blah, 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 blah. That's a tangent for a different day. But the last thing that I wish this organization would have done to set the proper expectation is I wish right after Otani left, before the Washington signing, Perry would have came out and said, hey, you know what? Here's what's going to happen. Here's the expectation. No, we're not going to tear this down all the way, but we're going to take stock in what we have. We're going to go from there. Next offseason, meaning the one that we're currently in, we're going to add a couple of pieces that we think might help us next year. And we think 2026, we might be able to contend. These next 2 years might be a little bleak, but you know what? Come out, watch some of our prospects. Zach Neto, Logan O'Hoppe, Shanuel, Dana, these guys, Aldergetty. There's a couple guys, Clausen, blah, 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 blah. These guys are going to learn at the major league level. We hope you guys can come out and enjoy some cheap concessions and cheap tickets. If the organization would have come out, set the expectation properly, call me crazy, but I think the fan base would have been okay with that. Honestly, I think they probably would have embraced it because all of us fans, the so-and-so realists, would have been more inclined to go to games because then they're honest about it. Because then what do you have to complain about? You know what I mean? Oh, well, the team sucks. Okay, but they told you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like if one of your family members is, going through something heavy like an addiction, right? And they tell you, hey, you know what? I want help. These next couple steps are going to be hard. Okay, what are you going to do if, God forbid they have a relapse? Are you going to get mad at them? No, they told you right off the bat, like, hey, this is going to be hard for me. This is going to be an adjustment. People go through hard times. Sports are an escape for a lot of people. But with that being said, if expectations are properly set for harsh life events or for something as silly as a sports game and a sports franchise, if the expectation is properly set, what do you have to be upset about?
Yeah, that's true. I think, other franchises, I'm starting to understand what it's like to be a Pirates fan. Because their expectations aren't that high, but although they've come through with some very good prospects, they eventually trade them away. I think the difference with the Angels is they've held on to a few of them, like Mike Trout, generational players that from all stances and should be on the Yankees or Phillies like other players if this were the Pirates. But the thing is, I look at the Pirates this year and I'm like, man, their pitching was great last year. They lost a lot of 3-2 games, a lot of 2-1 games, a lot of 2-0 games. The problem is completely their hitting. And what did they do? They went out and got a 37-year-old Andrew McCutchen. That's it. And they brought him back. That's not going to help them win games. They're still going to have an elite rotation, pretty good bullpen, and they're going to lose a lot of games in a division they could win. Let's just face it. That is not a division that they cannot win. The Brewers aren't all that spectacular. And outside of them, everyone else is mid to a slightly above average. So I feel the same way with the Angels this year. They're only a few, a starting pitcher and a bullpen piece away with another hitter from competing in a weak division. And with the guys you named that are youngsters that are going to come through, those guys could hit. And what if they were to hit this year, along with the additions that you would made? that this team could be really exciting. But again, we've got to, address our expectations and realize we live in reality and not honk it up so much, temper our emotions. We're not going to come out here and trash this team. We love this team. We want this team to be better, but we need to know that they're doing something to help our efforts to support them. And I think that's what's lost. The organization has forgotten the fact that, hey, we have a loyal fan base. The Dodgers can brag about how big their fan base is, the Yankees and all this other stuff. The Angels have a big fan base as well, and they have a loyal fan base. And it's sort of like what they said in Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And over the last 9 years, you can have nothing built and they will still come. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, give these young players something to be excited about.
Yep.
Right? I mean, give them something to fight for. Here's the thing. If you get an additional bat, I don't know who that is right now. I mean, I doubt it's Pete Alonso. But I mean, let's just throw him in there. Or, you get Sung Kim from the Padres and you plug him at second base. I mean, as of right now, I still think second base is the hole to fill because I still think Rengifo is at third base. I just don't think Christian Moore is ready yet, in all fairness to the guy. That's what I'm saying. I want a guy on a 1 or 2 year deal. So if you can get one more bat to maybe take that spot, okay, you can get another starting pitcher. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Flaherty type guy. But all of a sudden, you're in a situation where these young guys might start to believe that there's a chance. You don't need there to actually be a chance. You need these young guys to believe there's a chance. Why? Because you're trying to teach them how to play together, and you're trying to teach them how to play winning baseball. You're not going to do that by having another 96 year, loss year. Last year was a 99 loss year. Sure, is 96 losses a step in the right direction? I guess by default. I mean, hey, my significant other and I only fought 4 times today. That's better than the 7 times yesterday. Is that an improvement? Yeah, I guess by default. But that doesn't make it good or healthy.
It's not addressing the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, give these young guys something to play for. I don't need them to make the playoffs this year. Would we love it? Yeah, of course we would. But that's also not realistic right now where we currently stand. 1 or 2 moves from now, maybe it might be realistic for them to play competitive baseball in August, okay?
Yeah.
Because at that point, then it's up to them. Because if we're getting to July and this team is in a situation where, okay, you know what? They're within 2 games of a wild card spot, and they're within 4 of the division because it's a weak division this year. So if they're within 5 of the division and a wild card spot this year, okay, that's a good spot to be in. Now, let's fast forward to that part. If we're lucky enough to get to that point, that's when you make the decision. Do you go all in or do you not? I think the obvious answer is you don't, because you're not supposed to get there this year. So that being said, you leave a year like this year to let the young guys prove that they're capable of playing baseball, playoff baseball. And if we're all of a sudden at the very end of September and they miss the playoffs within 2 or 3 games, am I going to be disappointed? Yes, but I can promise you right now, you can bookmark this and cut it up. If I'm sitting here at the end of the baseball season ragging on this team because we didn't do anything at the trade deadline and we missed the playoffs by 2 or 3 games, that's on me, because I don't think this is a year where you need to go all in at a trade deadline. If this team is lucky enough to be competing, this is a year where you want the young guys to prove that they have what it takes. And if they don't quite this year, that's okay, because this wasn't supposed to be a playoff year.
Yeah, I would look at it this way too. I think I'm with you. Unless the Angels are either tied at the All-Star or around the trade deadline, or they're 2 games out type deal, I would still not go all in, like you said. I would go for as about as mid players as you could possibly get.
Yeah, like a Michael Lorenzen, like the Royals did.
Yeah, do stuff like that where it's not going to kill you prospect wise, and maybe you could even go cash considerations on expiring contracts of guys who are still good and still can provide pop that other teams want to just jettison. I mean, stuff like that, I'm all in on. And then if I'm at September 1st and the Angels are 4 games out of the wild card, even 5, which is I consider teetering on the final wild card, I'm fine with that because I know we've reached September and we gave it our all. And who knows? Funny things can happen in September, but if we fall out of it as we progress through September, I'm proud of the boys because by then you would think the team would probably be closer to 500 at that point, and that's a dramatic increase in wins compared to 99 losses from the year before. And I would be fine with that, and I'm on board with what you're saying. Then that's when you address it in the offseason for 2026, if there is a season, and we'll say, hey, let's load up. We got a nice core here, and all we're missing is the obvious pieces, and let's go out and get them.
Yeah, and the last thing is I do want to see what Mike Trout can do this year. I've seen the photos of him. He does look a lot better this year.
You think
Not
he
as
listened to our
muscular.
podcast?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. So we'll see, man. I would really, really like to see 120 games out of Skinny Trout.
Correct.
And no, I'm not saying he was fat. I'm saying the guy was, was maybe a little too yoked for what he needed.
Bro, he was
So,
bigger than an NFL linebacker. He got pretty big.
yeah. So hopefully the fact that he was able to trim off some of that weight will help him stay a little healthier. I mean, as we all get older, you need to get a little lighter or a little more conditioned at least. I mean, I've gained weight as I've gotten older, but I'm also still pretty light on my feet for what I do. I do pest control. I walk 5 to 15 miles a day, depending on the day. I mean, you have a pretty physically demanding job too. Loading and unloading semi trucks. I mean, you're doing it all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of us have physically demanding jobs. And that's not me comparing us to a Major League Baseball player. I'm saying that you have to learn your body and you have to learn what you need. His job as an athlete or any athlete is much more physically demanding than all of ours. But the point is, nobody knows your body like you do. Even a trainer, even a doctor, you know your limits. And hopefully he's kind of learned that this year. I'm really hoping the Angels don't coddle him. I'm really hoping the Angels don't give him a rest day. Hey, you took 5 at-bats instead of 4. You're going to sit down for a week. I'm hoping it's not that, but I'm definitely hoping they're able to get him off his feet every so often. I'm hoping he isn't playing a lot of center field. And, I mean, who knows, man? Maybe they need to teach him another position if it doesn't work in the outfield. Maybe we need to teach him first base. Look at what the Phillies did with Bryce Harper.
Yeah,
I don't like Bryce Harper, but, I mean, he's one of the most athletic first basemen out there.
Yeah. Like for me, I think if you're playing 7 games a week, I'd like for him to play the outfield 4 and have him DH 3 or have an off date on one of them and DH 2. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, I'm with you right there. I think if we get 120 to 130 out of Trout, that's a huge win. That's a huge win.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have another segment that I didn't know we were going to take this long on the first one, but we could definitely jump into this one as well, get some more content out of it. And that's, we're going to talk about the team up to 5. You want to start us off on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's too much we need to say here. I'll say this. You know what? I'm going to give them their kudos once because I know the Dodgers trolls will find our posts on X and Instagram, and I'm sure you guys see it too. You guys get tired of it too. Okay, great. Congratulations. You won a World Series. You did it at 162. The narrative has officially changed for you guys. But now it does become where you do it again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really not much else to say. You know what? You did it. And I'll give them credit. As hard as it is for me to say, trust me, this is me swallowing my pride. They were the better team. I don't think there's much disputing it. They literally had all the odds stacked against them. They seemingly had nobody in their starting rotation. Guys like Walker Bueller stepped up. You got to give the devil his due. You got to give them their due. There you go. I mean, I said it. I swallowed the bitter pill.
Yeah, I mean, same thing here. I think the point of this talking about the Dodgers here is to me and Fernando talked about this is just to bury the hatchet and realize that moving into 2025, and it's not just because the Dodgers won the World Series. It'd be stupid not to say it, but we want to just be like, hey, you know what? They are who we thought they are. And, it was great to make fun of them when they were constantly choking in the playoffs and we were out of it. But, 2025, we're going to focus in on this team and around baseball, around the league show, and just be like, you know what? It is what it is. There's no need to Dodger trash right now because you can't trash the champs. Like you said, you did it 162, a narrative that was bugging them since 1988. And, because 2020 didn't count. And it's sort of like, it is what it is. Time to turn the page, stop being bitter. And, don't worry about what 17's doing over there and the other guys. It's just, we're going to focus and give you Angels stuff all year. And we know the contracts are ridiculous. We know the deferred money's ridiculous. We know it's hurting baseball. And that's why I brought up earlier in the last statement is 2026 may not happen. There's a very, very good chance that we could have a lockout. And, the tipping point would be the new evil empire, which is up north. You can't allow, I don't care if it's within the rules, they found a loophole and the loophole's exposed for everybody to see. And you want to blame the owners because there's a part of the fan base that says it's the owner's fault for being cheap. And then it's the fans saying, well, it's the players union or it's the players themselves, or it's just the framework of baseball in general. It's Manfred's. There's finger pointing all over the place. The point is these jackasses need to get on the same page. We've been saying it for years. There needs to be a floor and there needs to be a ceiling, a hard cap, penalties, not just on money, but on money for following seasons. You get it just like NFL hard cap, because I believe, you may have a different opinion, but that's what I believe. I think baseball needs that because, and get rid of guaranteed contracts. Guaranteed contracts are killing the NBA and the MLB because it does not incentivize these players to stay healthy. Just look at number 6. Who, if you want to talk about the Dodgers breaking rules, abusing the rules and the things that they have to play with, look at number 6. He's straight up abused. He's calling himself a doctor. He's diagnosing himself. And so, I mean,
Dr. Oz.
Yeah, that needs to change.
I think I just threw that out there. I think I think he's an actual doctor, right?
Yeah, he is actually.
I don't know if he is. Yeah, no, I was like, that was Jimmy throwing it out there.
Lately, but yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if he was or not. That was just the first name. I was going to say Dr. Phil, but I mean, he's a doctor. Yeah, is Judge Judy an actual judge? She is, right?
TV one, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's too much else to say about the Dodgers. I don't know if a salary cap will ever be officially made, but something has to give. I don't know if the Players Association will ever want to get rid of guaranteed contracts, but there at least needs to put some clauses made then. Okay, if we're not going to get rid of guaranteed money, okay, then put a clause that players have to play at least a certain amount of money or they have to forfeit some of the contract. There's got to be something that Players Association does, because I do believe the owners can cite what's happening with a guy like Anthony Rendon. I
should be the poster child, straight up.
Yeah, because I can't think of too many other teams that have guys who are getting paid like that to that capacity. I mean, I know there are tons of teams that are paying out contracts forever. You know, I mean, you have Chris Davis with the Orioles. I mean, I think Madison Bumgarner with the Diamondbacks. I think those are two guys that aren't on those teams anymore, but they're still getting money. So, I mean, there are other owners who would probably make the argument like, okay, hey, something's got to change at some point. And perhaps a long lockout does need to happen to get these things fixed.
Yeah, and just to play off that, I think owners are going to cite the fact that, okay, and that's where I think there's going to be a disagreement, because the owners will be like, okay, if there's no longer guaranteed contracts and we can cut a guy if he's not playing a set amount of games, like you said, then they're gonna miss. Then the players union is going to be like, well, wait a minute, then they can't recoup that insurance money. You know, they shouldn't be able to get insurance money. You should just take
that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
and that's why I think the owners are about it, but then they're not if it's thrown back in their face, because they're going to want their cake and eat it too. They're going to want guys to be like, okay, you didn't earn your 17 million, so you only get 12 million because you played X amount of games. And then the players are going to be like, well, owners, then you can't recoup that insurance for the time I was out. You know what I mean? That's where they got to find a middle or eliminate both.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see what happens when the CBA is up, but we have years to talk about it. But the system's broken, the simulation's glitched.
It is. It's like, you know what it felt like this year, and a friend of mine told me, he's like, it feels like those older games, because you can't really do it too much on the newer video games. They kind of make it proof to where you can't really make a super team in one off season. But it used to be one of those ones where you could just go in there and to team management and just throw everyone on your team and then start a season. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have an all-star team before you even hit the beginning of the season in a video game. I think that's what a lot of Dodger fans, or not Dodger fans, but baseball fans feel, that they were just able to load up while everyone else is just twiddling their fingers.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that like on like the roster menus. You can go to like player movement and do things like that on like I think most of the games. But the problem becomes when the off season hits and you need to start like paying people. You know what I mean? Because your salary cap is probably already going to be over.
There's not
So
a
then you gotta
defer
trade
button
money.
on the show yet, is there?
No, yeah, there's no deferred money yet on the show. You can buy, I think, a higher budget if you have like coins or whatever. So
Oh, okay. Got it.
yeah, but I never like doing that. When I play MLB The Show, I kind of like bringing the team down to the studs. You know what I mean? Like I think last year I traded like Rengifo, Estevez, like before the season. So I traded Tyler Anderson. Like I traded everybody, and then I kept like the pillars. Ohapi, Shanuel Neto, and then I just traded for a bunch of other Major League Baseball prospects, stuff like that. Like I've always liked that aspect more. I've never really liked to build a super team. Like that's only fun for so long.
Yeah,
Like I like the prospect building.
and it's funny because I think 2002, I never played a video game season before 2002 season without the Angels. Like I always played with the Angels. And then when I started to play the video games after 2002, I mean, yeah, maybe the results weren't in real life, but the Angels always had a good team. And so like I would win too easy. So I would start gravitating to your Pirates, to your Blue Jays, and I would do that, play franchise mode and start a team over. And I'd win World Series at the end of the season of 1 or 2 seasons. And I would get the award for cheapskate because I always, I'd have like the lowest payroll winning the World Series. And it was fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. But now it's like, well, yeah, I could definitely play the Angels. It'd be a struggle.
Yeah, or you can play with the Dodgers, simulate, and you're probably going to win like 150 games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
because they got every one of their mama and
Yeah,
their mama's mama.
I can't wait to see what their roster is going to look like, how many 90s they're going to have on the show. So,
Jeez. I can't wait to see how MLB The Show is going to do it with their like payroll, because like that's one thing they've never really figured out of the game. So like even right now, I'm on 2025 now, and the Dodgers I think are like 90 million over. So
go figure.
yeah, it'll be funny. Next year it's gonna be like they're like 300 million over. Yeah, of course they are. That means they can't like make any trades unless it makes the payroll less.
Yeah, and that'd be impossible, but still, I mean,
Yeah,
do they
exactly.
really need a trade?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
But yeah, that's all I have about the team up to 5. We're not going to talk about them this year. FU number 17. I hope you're happier with your new wife.
yeah.
We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, we're done. We've moved on. We've gone to therapy. It's over.
Yeah, I've meanwhile I'm like, like shaving my head like mid 2000s Britney Spears. I'm sitting over here.
We're licking donuts like Ariana Grande. So,
Yeah, exactly. You see me on the corner of Buena Park, Buena Park Gigolo.
You're over there by where Farrell's used to be.
Where Farrell's used to be with the shirt on, like cropped up. This is super bitchy. You're like, oh god, he's not looking too good these days. Eating rallies or whatever it's called over there, Checkers.
Oh yeah, that's the most ghetto rallies right there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he doesn't look too good.
Oh man. Well, like we said in the beginning of the show, though, we have a lot of exciting things coming up together for the programs moving forward for the season. So we're hoping for good baseball, and we're going to give you the stats. We're going to give you the interviews. We're going to give you the post game shows and the daily shows. So we're looking forward to big things. And then we're gonna have readable stuff, blogs, and so if you can't get enough video, there's gonna be blogs and podcasts, everything this year.
New sponsors?
Yeah, new sponsors. So we're gonna be out and about more locally, and then we're gonna have a betting site to go to too with a promo code. So we'll have that all set up for you very, very soon.
Yeah, with the promo code gamble responsibly.
Yes, please.
Yeah, if not, Tom will reimburse you all the money.
No, 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 no.
He will not. He will not. He would. That was a joke.
Go to Rally Chris or Grill Master.
They will
They'll take
reimburse
care
you
of
for the money. Yes, yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So you got anything else, Lone Star?
I do not. Have a good night, everybody, or a good day, whatever time you're listening. Follow us on all the socials.